The next step of taking power over something is to talk about it. Now, this is the part that was so difficult for me. I was literally embarrassed about having Tourette syndrome uh, until I was in my 30s. Now, I'm in my 40s now, and that means that for 30 something years, that means for 3/4 of my life, I was so embarrassed by having Tourette syndrome that I wouldn't talk about it. So I have a friend who is also a professional magician, and he is also a motivational speaker, and he's the one who actually inspired me to start speaking. And one, he knew my story. He was one of the few people who kind of knew my story and knew that I had Tourette syndrome, and because he had just seen it, and he actually was just forward enough to kind of ask me about it. And when people asked me about it in a kind way, I was willing to talk about it. I just didn't want to bring it up. I had a hard time being the person that was willing to say, hey, I have Tourette syndrome. So he learned about what it was that I had, and he asked me questions about it so that he could educate himself about it. And little by little, he realized that even though his and my story, life stories are quite a bit different, they had a lot of similarities. And he started saying to me, you know, Jason, you really should be out speaking about this. You should be out talking to people about this. And I was dead set against it. In fact, I told him on more than one occasion, I'm not going to do that. Don't bring it up again. Because the level of embarrassment that I had about not being able to control these movements at the time, not now, at the time, it genuinely felt like it was my big weakness. Like out of all the things in life, out of all the things I could control in my life, I couldn't control this thing. And so I felt like when it came to this thing, this Tourette syndrome that I dealt with, it made me feel like I was like a failure, which doesn't even make sense. When you stop and think about it, it doesn't make sense at all. But that's the way it felt. So my friend is a persistent guy. And what he did little by little over the course of more than a year, multiple years, he started just planting little seeds about being willing to talk about it to other people. And he showed by his own example how he was using his life story about dealing with difficulties and overwhelming obstacles, how he was using his life story to go out and affect other people's lives and to touch their lives. And one day I was at one of his talks, and I saw a group of teenagers come up afterwards and speak to him. And it was obvious that he had touched them in a way emotionally that no magic trick had ever connected with people before that I'd ever seen. He had found a way to touch base in a very real, honest way with them that they were inspired by. And that is the moment that I realized how important it was to talk about having Tourette syndrome. And that is also why I'm asking you to be willing to talk about it as well. Now, I'm not saying to you, oh, you need to go stand up in front of a large group of people and talk about your difficulties. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm a professional performer. I get up in front of groups. That's what I do. That's my job. It's my career. It's my passion. And ultimately, that was the right choice for me. And perhaps it is the right choice for you, but that's not specifically what I'm asking you to do. What I'm asking you to do is to be willing to find somebody that you can trust, someone who has your best interest at heart that you can talk to about this frustration, about this difficulty, about whatever it is that you're dealing with that is overwhelming or embarrassing or whatever the situation is to you.